So, now let's talk about the new characters of The Dark Knight Rises. First up is Tom Hardy as Bane. Now, I would never compare him to Heath Ledger's Joker because that is just so unfair because they're two completely different characters, but still, either way you look at it, he still had quite a role to fulfill playing the new Batman villain after Heath Ledger's legendary performance in the 2008 movie. I have to say, though, that I was very impressed with his acting in this film. I mean, the first couple of scenes that he is in, I have to admit, and maybe not everybody out there will agree with me, but I felt that he was kind of a little awkward. I don't know, like some of his dialogue wasn't the greatest, and he was kind of intimidating and stuff, and I mean, I liked his character, but there was just something about him that threw me off. I didn't really get him right away. It could be that he was kind of on the sidelines for the first half of the movie, not, he was in the background and the attention wasn't necessarily focused on him. But I have to say, the part of the movie that really got me into it, I mean, I loved the movie right from the start, but what really made me think, oh, wow, this is something else, is the first time that Batman and Bane duke it out. And for those of you who've already seen the film, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That was the point in the movie where I know, wow, this is going to be good. This is going to be really good. I mean, yes, it is kind of hard to understand what Bane is saying at all times because of the fact that he has a heavy accent and it's muffled by the mask. So sometimes it's like, sorry, no offense, Tom Hardy, you're awesome either way. But still, I got what he was saying in most cases. So, I got the general idea. I probably have to watch it a few more times, which I do plan to, before I get every tiny little syllable. But I understood what he was saying. But he had some really impressive dialogue, too, throughout the film. He had some cool speeches, and he was just a very intimidating character. So, big props to Tom Hardy. Next up is Anne Hathaway as Selina Kyle Catwoman. I know there was a lot of hate on her for trying to do this role, and I'm kind of half and half with her in this movie. I mean, to be fair, the focus of this film was not on her, and rightfully so, and that's kind of part of my issue with her character. It's not so much Anne Hathaway, but just the fact that the Catwoman seems very random in this film. She doesn't have a whole lot to do with the main plot. I mean, she does have some value in the movie. It's not like she's completely useless. I just feel like she was added in there because of the fact that she was a famous Batman villainess, or not really a villainess, but a famous character. And I know Bane is not as well known, so they wanted to have another one that was popular like the Joker. But overall, I kind of asked myself, what exactly is she doing in this film? I mean, Catwoman is meant to be kind of a love interest for Batman, the whole cat and mouse thing that they do, no pun intended. But I don't know, the chemistry between Anne Hathaway and Christian Bale, sometimes it's there, but it just feels like it's very rushed. It does. There doesn't seem like there was a whole lot of time for developing. I mean, maybe people will disagree with me on this. I'm just going by what I saw, and yeah, it had its moments, but overall, I just feel like their relationship was very rushed, and it didn't seem like there was a lot of time for it to blossom. Overall, though, I mean, I liked Anne Hathaway's performance. I mean, it was nothing like, Michelle Pfeiffer's in Batman Returns, but, obviously, I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. I've always loved Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, but I like, Christopher Nolan is trying to take a very realistic approach with the Batman villains in this, so obviously more kind of down to earth. She's just a cat burglar, not this more fantasy-based character who literally has 9 lives. I mean, that was original, but I mean, there aren't really too many other original things you can do with this character. Actually, I thought her performance was very reminiscent of the old Adam West TV show from the 60s, Julie Newmar's performance. I mean, she doesn't do the whole, perfect, I can't roll my tongue like that, but the whole perfect thing. But every once in a while, she'll throw out a corny line like, cat got your tongue, something like that. And it just like, it felt like it was kind of being corny. I mean, not stepping foot into Joel Schumacher territory, mind you, but it had its kind of cheesy moments. But, and especially with the costume and everything, you got a very kind of old, school feel to it. But all in all, I thought she was okay. I mean, I don't think she was terrific, but she wasn't terrible either. All right, next up is Marion Cotillard. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Who plays Miranda Tate. And she, again, not to give too much away, she's kind of like another romantic interest for Bruce Wayne in this film. And that's all I'm going to say about her, because that's really all you need to know without seeing the movie. So, yeah, moving on. Finally, we have Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who plays John Blake, who's kind of a rookie in the police force. Again, I always have liked his performances, and I will say that it's Christopher Nolan likes to use a lot of the same actors. Like Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Marion Cotillard were both in Inception, which was Nolan's previous movie. He does like to use a lot of the same actors, and I think that's great. You know, he gets very familiar. Also, I'm sorry, Michael Caine was also in Inception as well. And Tom Hardy. So, yeah, I guess this is pretty much like a cast reunion from Inception. Wow, didn't realize that's 4 actors. But it's cool that he likes to work with a lot of the same people, especially since you can see how well they work off each other. But John Blake is a pretty interesting character as well. Again, I'm not going to go too much into the plot because I'm afraid I'm going to give something away, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Really liked his performance, and that's all I'm going to say. Overall, looking at the movie, I thought I was very, very impressed with it. I mean, it had quite a job to fulfill trying to top its predecessor, The Dark Knight. And the way I look at it, I think looking at the value of the movie story-wise, I think really all 3 Batman movies are equal. Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises all have equal worth to them. I mean, you can find some superiority with story or characters in one of the other ones compared to the other 2. But all in all, I think really they're equal as far as the story goes. Popularity, I think you're going to find ultimately The Dark Knight's going to be the most popular, and that's goes without saying because of the Joker. I mean, the Joker is probably one of, if not the most iconic villain in cinema and in comic books. So, I mean, that's almost impossible to top that. The film had amazing action sequences. I think it had some great dialogue scenes, and it had some truly shocking moments. I mean, I'm not easily fooled in films, at least I don't think I am. I like a good mystery, and that's part of this film. It had a lot of exposition, a lot of backstory with a lot of your newer characters, and I admit I was having my jaw dropping down to the floor a few times in this film. And so for me, that's quite impressive for a film to do that to me. Hans Zimmer did an incredible score. You know, yet again, he does that with all of his films. I really particularly like the Bane chant that they have in there. Most people know what I'm talking about, which is translated to Rise. And it makes the title of the film, The Dark Knight Rises, is very, very symbolic. Yeah, from Walter, it's meant to be interpreted literally. I mean, literally, The Dark Knight Rises. That's all I'm going to say about it. Those of you who see me know what I'm talking about. And it's also meant to be figuratively as well. So it's actually a pretty clever title now that I think about it. One other thing I'm going to say, without spoiling the ending, I did hear this from a lot of people. They were comparing the ending of Dark Knight Rises to Nolan's other film, Inception. And I don't know if you guys heard about this or if you agree with it, because basically what it's saying is the ending is open to interpretation. And all I'm going to say is I don't agree with that because, guys, this isn't Inception, okay? It's a completely different film. This is The Dark Knight Rises. This is Batman. I don't think that's where Christopher Nolan was going with this film. Again, I'm not saying what the ending is about, but I just noticed a lot of people were comparing this ending to Inception. So I don't know why. I mean, I can understand why, but I don't think that's what Christopher Nolan was what he was trying to go for here. But I have to say, I was applauding at the end of the film. I was very, very happy with the way they ended it. And that's all I'm going to say about it. So, yes, there is my review of The Dark Knight Rises. I hope I didn't spoil anything for you guys. If so, I'm very sorry. I tried to make this as spoiler-free as possible without going, into the story too much. So, go check it out right now at your theater. I pretty much guarantee you will not be disappointed, especially if you are a Batman fan or a superhero fan or just a fan of movies in general. It was a great movie, and I cannot wait to see it again. Thanks for listening, guys. See you later.